In Konoha the opening game plays as Jikuni Yuanichi Chapter 551-576. Chapter 551. Bulma had already gone to find Chi-Chi and got the chakra flashlight. She said goodbye to Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi, I'll go back first. They're still waiting for me to treat them. Hearing this, Chi-Chi nodded and asked with concern. Do you want me to help too? However, Bulma looked at Son Gohan, then at Chi-Chi, and refused. No, you stay here and take good care of Son Gohan. I can do it alone. I just lack the chakra flashlight. As long as I have the chakra flashlight, I can complete the rescue work alone. Seeing this, Chi-Chi looked at Son Gohan. She couldn't take care of it, so Chi-Chi looked at Bulma and she could only compromise. Okay, be safe. Hearing this, Bulma nodded. Yeah. She looked at the two of them. I'm leaving. Hearing this, Chi-Chi also nodded. Yeah. Bulma didn't say anything else. She was in a hurry to go back. Now, Chi-Chi was safe and she was relieved, so she didn't have to worry about Chi-Chi's safety at all. Soon, Bulma returned to the scene. She quickly went over and used medical ninjutsu to treat everyone. Now, the chakra flashlight was already there, so she didn't have to worry at all. In the air. Both Hitaki Kusuo and Frieza had consumed a lot of energy in the battle. Now, they had stopped fighting and were resting. Both were very tired. At this moment, Hitaki Kusuo felt more and more that it was really difficult to defeat Frieza. He had just thought about letting Frieza go. Now, this idea is getting stronger and stronger. However, Hitaki Kusuo can let Frieza go at any time, but many times, the idea in his mind is just a thought in his mind. To really do it is another matter. Hitaki Kusuo has not yet figured out what to do. While thinking about letting Frieza go, Kusuo Hitaki was observing again, looking for the best time to attack. He was very conflicted, and he knew it in his heart. But what could he do? That kind of conflicting feeling was just like this, and Kusuo Hitaki had no choice but to continue waiting and wasting time. When he figured it out, or when Frieza figured it out, the final result was nothing more than two. One was that he successfully captured Frieza, and the other was that Frieza successfully escaped. No matter which outcome, Kusuo Hitaki didn't care. He was also very curious about what the final result would be. But now, as long as things were not settled, there would be no results. In the eye contact, Frieza smiled. He snorted disdainfully. Kusuo Hitaki, how about it? Have you thought of a good way to deal with me? Seeing that Frieza was still in such a cheerful mood, Kusuo Hitaki raised his eyebrows. He didn't understand at first, but after thinking about it, he understood it instantly. It was like that. Frieza was the kind of person who wouldn't cry until he saw the coffin. Kusuo Hitaki had nothing to say to him. Seeing Frieza say this, Kusuo Hitaki smiled disdainfully and answered. You and I are not, we are evenly matched. Although I can't beat you, you can't beat me either, so what's there to be proud of? There's nothing to be proud of. Frieza listened to this, raised his eyebrows, and said nothing. What Hitaki Kusuo said also made sense. There is really nothing to be proud of, but it's really boring to keep fighting like this. It's impossible to keep fighting like this forever, right? Chapter 552. Hitaki Kusuo checked the progress bar and found that it had reached 28% of the progress. He felt that this state was good. In addition, he had almost rested. Most of his physical strength had been restored. Kusuo Hitaki took the initiative to attack. Although he wanted to let Frieza go, he wanted to capture Frieza more. Frieza saw him attack. He naturally would not sit still and wait for death. Frieza also fought back. So, the two stopped for a while and now entered the battle again. But, it was very strange. I don't know what Frieza was thinking. This time, he was obviously not as active as in the previous battle. He had always been mainly defensive and would occasionally take the initiative to attack. Just now, he attacked very fierce. Hitaki Kusuo had sensed it. He didn't know what Frieza was going to do. Was he going to humble himself? But Frieza was not such a kind person. He must have some other purpose for doing this. Hitaki Kusuo felt angry. He didn't attack Frieza. He immediately stopped fighting and moved away from Frieza. Unexpectedly, this distance turned out to be a blessing in disguise for Hitaki Kusuo. Because, after he left, he found that Frieza had already fiddled with his tail and was standing aside, preparing to sneak attack himself. He had been defending and not attacking. Because, at that time, he was fighting and trying to secretly repair his tail, and now, his tail has just been repaired and can resume fighting. Frieza was a little unhappy when he saw that he was discovered by Hitaki Kusuo. He was almost able to sneak attack Hitaki Kusuo. But unexpectedly, at this critical moment, Hitaki Kusuo realized the danger and moved away. Hitaki Kusuo looked at Frieza. He snorted coldly. HMPH. Frieza, do you want to sneak attack me? Hearing this, Frieza raised his eyebrows calmly. He was not ashamed. Isn't this normal? Didn't you want to sneak attack me just now? Hitaki Kusuo didn't say anything when he saw him say that. Indeed, this was normal in a battle, so Hitaki Kusuo was not angry. He just used this incident to wake himself up and be more careful later. Because Frieza would launch a sneak attack. Of course, he could also launch a sneak attack on Frieza. It was a draw again. Hitaki Kusuo looked at the battle and, to be honest, he was a little tired and didn't want to continue fighting. In fact, he wanted to tell Frieza to let him go. Zero, please give flowers. There was no point in fighting. Hitaki Kusuo could even foresee that if the battle continued like this, it would always be a draw, and there would be no effect at all. It was really unnecessary to waste time on this matter. Zero, but, Kusuo Hitaki couldn't say such words. He was also very surprised. Frieza had no intention of leaving. He seemed to be interested in fighting. Kusuo Hitaki really didn't know what he was thinking. Really, Kusuo Hitaki felt tired physically and mentally. He was really tired. But, it was difficult to say those words. He could only hold on like this. Kusuo Hitaki didn't know how long he could hold on like this. He was really afraid that he would suddenly be so tired that he didn't want to get up and just wanted to lie down and rest. Frieza kept staring at Kusuo Hitaki. He was thinking, how to defeat Kusuo Hitaki. After thinking about it, Frieza couldn't think of a better way. He felt very tired, really tired. Both of them were tired, but they didn't let each other know. Work. Chapter 553 Raditz, Son Goku, Piccolo and others, they have already discussed that Kusuo Hitaki is now in a state of exhaustion. Since Kusuo Hitaki can't fight anymore, then, let the three of them take over, so after the three of them discussed it, Raditz called out to Kusuo Hitaki. Kusuo Hitaki, you take a rest, let the three of us take over. Hearing this, Kusuo Hitaki looked at the three people, he was very surprised. He was just thinking about what to do in 020, but he didn't expect that there would be external help now. Kusuo Hitaki's heart was relieved. It's just right, let Raditz and the others fight, Kusuo Hitaki is tired, and he also wants to rest. Frieza listened to this, he looked at the three people, hateful. This is the disadvantage of this battle for him. He fought with Kusuo Hitaki, both of them were tired, Kusuo Hitaki could rest, this side can even change a group of people. But Frieza can't do that. Even if Kusuo Hitaki changed a group of people, he was still himself, dragging his tired body to continue fighting. Such a battle situation was obviously not favorable for him. Frieza gave up. If this situation continued, there would be no advantage. It seemed that he had to escape. Frieza had no fighting spirit and wanted to escape from here. Raditz and the others looked at Frieza and said, Frieza, accept our battle. As they said that, the three of them flew up. Seeing that the three of them had already, he had no choice but to fight back, and then find a chance to escape during the battle. Soon, Raditz and the others came over and started fighting with Frieza. 3 people against one of him. Even if the 3 fought alone, each person's strength would definitely not be as good as Kusuo Hitaki, but when they joined forces, it was hard to say. One person could not defeat 4 hands. Besides, there were 6 hands. Although Frieza would not be defeated, he felt particularly exhausted. In addition, he had no intention of fighting and was exhausted, so he had no fighting spirit. Kusuo Hitaki watched the battle from the side. Just now, he was exhausted, but it was quite relaxing to just watch without fighting. Moreover, Kusuo Hitaki thought it was quite exciting to watch them fight. He was very interested in watching. Kusuo Hitaki could see that Frieza was probably as tired as he was. Frieza was in a bad state. Although he didn't lose, it was obvious that he looked exhausted. 0. It seemed that under the attack of the three, Frieza could be defeated. Kusuo Hitaki was very happy. He was expecting it, but he didn't expect that the situation would change. Frieza didn't want to fight, and he flew away at high speed. He was very fast and flew away in a flash. When Raditz saw this, the three of them were stunned for a moment at first, but soon reacted. When Raditz reacted, he was anxious and wanted to chase him immediately. However, when Kusuo Hitaki saw this, he immediately called a halt. Don't chase. Raditz, who was about to chase, stopped. He looked at Kusuo Hitaki in confusion. Kusuo Hitaki looked at the direction where Frieza was going away, and he said calmly. Next time, we have fought for so long this time, and we are all very tired, so don't fight anymore. Seeing what Hitaki Kusuo said, Raditz and the others did not speak. They did not chase. They just looked in the direction where Frieza escaped, and they were silent. They were really unwilling to let Frieza escape like this. Hitaki Kusuo was very calm. Chapter 554. After Hitaki Kusuo landed, he looked at everyone and said to everyone, "You all take a rest and recover your strength." Hearing this, everyone agreed. They were indeed very tired and did not want to move now. They just wanted to take a rest and recover their strength. Chi-Chi and Bulma went to bring food to everyone. Everyone ate the food. The large amount of physical energy consumption made them very tired, so they needed to replenish food, not only for rest, but also for the food that the body needed. Raditz and Son Goku 06 summarized today's results on the side. The two sat, ate, rested, and discussed. Raditz said, "I didn't expect that I would suddenly become a Saiyan today. It's quite magical. I couldn't become one no matter how I trained before, but today I became one all of a sudden." Sun Wukong was also very excited. He said, "Yes, it's really magical, but what's frustrating is that I want to be able to transform at any time, but it seems that I can't. I can't find the feeling." Seeing him like this, Raditz said, "It's the same for me." Hitaki Kusuo came over and heard the conversation between the two. "What are you talking about?" Hearing this, the two looked over and saw that it was Hitaki Kusuo. They smiled and Raditz answered, "Nothing to talk about. We were talking about how we became Saiyans today." Hitaki Kusuo came to the side and sat down. He saw the two talking about this matter and was very curious about it. Hitaki Kusuo said, "I didn't expect that you could suddenly awaken today. I was quite surprised." Sun Wukong said depressedly, "What's the point of being surprised? It was just an accident. Afterwards, we wanted to transform, but we couldn't find that feeling no matter what." Seeing this, Kusuo Hitaki looked at the two in surprise. He asked, "Can you no longer find that feeling?" Both nodded. Seeing this, Kusuo Hitaki didn't say anything. He retracted his gaze, looked ahead quietly, and thought about it silently. Seeing Kusuo Hitaki in this state, the two didn't know what to say. They didn't disturb Kusuo Hitaki. Raditz sighed at this time. "It's a pity, it's a bargain for Frieza, let him escape." Kusuo Hitaki listened to this, and his heart moved. It can't be considered a pity. He still wanted Frieza to escape, because if Frieza was always here, he would only be more annoyed. If he couldn't capture Frieza, there would be no need to keep the situation of a tie. Frieza left, at least, they could take a break. When you are in a better condition in the future, you can go find Frieza, fight him, and capture him. There is no need to get stuck at this juncture and put yourself in danger. This is really unnecessary. Sun Wukong sighed. Alas, I still want to know more. What other ways are there to transform into a Saiyan again? Is it that this is the only way every time, and you must be stimulated before you can transform? Seeing that he is more concerned about this matter, Raditz remained silent. He also wanted to know. The problem is that he couldn't find a solution. For a while, the three of them sat here to rest, but they could only be silent. They had nothing to say to each other and didn't know what to say. Hitaki Kusuo ignored the two of them, he thought silently. Frieza must be caught. However, He must be released today, because the fighting power of Kusuo Hatake and others has reached a state of exhaustion. Chapter 555. Next, everyone went back. Those who should rest rested, but some did not. Kusuo Hatake called Piccolo, Yamcha and others. He said to them, "You guys don't have to participate in the battle for the time being, because you have more important tasks to complete. You just need to concentrate on finding the scattered Dragon Balls on Namek. Krillin is dead, and only the Dragon Balls can revive him. This is a very urgent matter. The Dragon Balls must not fall into Frieza's hands, otherwise, Krillin will be dead." Hearing this, everyone nodded. Kusuo Hatake had already given the order, so he said, "You go back, have a good rest tonight, and you will set off tomorrow." Seeing this, everyone nodded again. Then, they all left. Kusuo Hatake watched them leave without saying anything. After Piccolo and the others left, Kusuo Hatake retracted his gaze. He couldn't participate because he had more important things to do, and couldn't do them at the same time, so he could only work together. The next day, the work was divided into two teams. One team was Piccolo and his team, who were responsible for finding the Dragon Balls, and the other team was Kusuo Hatake, who led people to continue looking for Frieza and continue fighting Frieza. However, Kusuo Hatake led people to search for a circle. He didn't find Frieza. Could it be that Frieza had left Namek? For a moment, Kusuo Hatake didn't know what to do. He hesitated. Just as he was hesitating, someone asked him, "Kusuo Hatake, do we still need to look for him? Because, they have been looking for a long time and still haven't found Frieza. He may not be on Namek anymore. If he is not there, they will definitely not find him even if they look for him on Namek." Hatake Kusuo listened and sighed softly. He didn't say anything. Now, he didn't find Frieza, so he didn't know whether Piccolo and the others had found the Dragon Ball. He didn't have any good news, so he could only wait for good news from Piccolo. Thinking of this, Hatake Kusuo sighed. He turned around and looked at everyone, signaling, "Keep looking, look again, if you still can't find it, then give up." After hearing this, and seeing that there was finally a deadline, everyone was relieved. After all, they could just look for it one last time, which was better than the original feeling of endless time. Everyone nodded and began to disperse and look for it again. Hatake Kusuo looked at the scattered crowd. He was silent. He didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing to not find Frieza. If they didn't find it, they wouldn't need to fight. But the hidden danger of Frieza was always there. If they found it, they would have to fight immediately, and another round of fighting would come. Before this, everyone had gone through too many rounds of fighting, and everyone was tired. So, they didn't want to fight again. So, Hatake Kusuo's heart was also a little complicated. He didn't know whether it was better to find it or not. Hatake Kusuo sighed. That's good. He thought of Piccolo. For him, whether he found it or not, it seemed to be the same, but Piccolo had to find the Dragon Ball, otherwise, it would be a bad thing. Another thing. Krillin will not be able to revive. As time goes by, the chance of revival will only be smaller, so now we must hurry up. Thinking of Krillin's death, Kusuo Hatake felt heavy. He had an indescribable feeling. Death is really too easy. Chapter 556. Although Frieza seemed fine and not seriously injured on the surface, Frieza was actually seriously injured inside. He has not left the planet yet. Because he was seriously injured and had no power to leave, he just hid, so Kusuo Hatake and his team did not find Frieza. Kusuo Hatake looked at the scattered people looking there. He was silent. Frieza has not been found yet, but Kusuo Hatake remembered another thing. As he thought about it, suddenly, the inspiration came. Kusuo Hatake figured it out instantly. He has found Frieza's weakness and knows how to attack him next time he meets him. Kusuo Hatake is very happy. Just here at this time, Piccolo and his friends also came back. When they saw Kusuo Hatake, Piccolo and his friends greeted him. Kusuo Hatake. Hearing this, Kusuo Hatake looked over and saw that it was Piccolo and his friends. His heart moved and he asked Piccolo and his friends, "How is it? Did you find the Dragon Balls?" Seeing this, Piccolo answered happily. We found them, but we didn't find all of them. We only found 3 Dragon Balls. When they came close to Kusuo Hatake, Piccolo and his friends stopped. Kusuo Hatake was very excited after hearing this. He said immediately, "Show me the Dragon Balls." After hearing this, Piccolo took out the Dragon Balls, a total of 3, and Kusuo Hatake took them. He looked at the Dragon Balls in his hand and fell into a state of obsession. Dragon Balls, these are Dragon Balls. It is blood red and glowing, it is really dazzling. Kusuo Hatake breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at Piccolo and the others and said, "Keep looking, I also want to tell you a good news." In order to inspire people, Kusuo Hatake said so. Piccolo and the others were surprised when they heard it, and Piccolo asked immediately, "Have you found Frieza?" However, Kusuo Hatake shook his head and explained, "No, but I found Frieza's weakness. When we find him, we can capture him directly, and we don't have to be unable to deal with him like last time. After all, it's useless to find Frieza if we can't deal with him. It doesn't matter if we find him or not, the result is still the same." Piccolo and the others were delighted after hearing it, and they asked immediately, "What is it?" Kusuo Hatake shook his head and explained, "I can't tell you this for the time being. When we find Frieza and I subdue him, you will know what it is." Piccolo and the others didn't say anything. They were just thinking that Frieza was so tenacious, and he could hold on even to that point last time. If Kusuo Hatake really found his weakness, then, what is his weakness? No matter what Piccolo and the others thought, they couldn't think of what Piccolo's weakness was. This was too unbelievable. Hatake Kusuo looked at the Dragon Ball in his hand, and his mood became better. Things finally developed in a good way. This is great. Now, 3 Dragon Balls have been found, and they only need to collect the remaining ones. On his side, they only need to wait to find Frieza. Now, there are no difficulties. Hatake Kusuo handed the Dragon Ball back to Piccolo and said, "You will keep the Dragon Balls first, and when you find them all, you can give them to me." Hearing this, Piccolo nodded. Yes. Then, Piccolo took the 3 Dragon Balls and went to look for them again. There were still Dragon Balls that had not been found, and they had to find them again. Hatake Kusuo waited for Piccolo to leave, and he waited silently for his people to give him an answer. Frieza has not been found yet, and I don't know when he will be found. Chapter 557. Maybe there is not much time left. Just now, the system has been normal, but now it keeps reminding Kusuo Hatake that the time has entered the countdown. Seeing this, Kusuo Hatake was also very anxious. He tried to communicate with the system. "System, I am already trying to find Frieza in a hurry. Can I extend the time a little? This time is really not enough." After hearing this, the system refused. "That's your business. This system only gives this much time." After hearing this, Kusuo Hatake was very anxious. He was in a hurry. "System, can you give me more time, really? This time is really not enough. Now none of my people have reported to me that there is news about Frieza. If we keep counting like this, I will definitely not be able to find Frieza when the time comes." However, the voice of the system was still as cold as ever. This system said that it's your business and has nothing to do with this system. This is the only time set by this system. Hatake Kusuo was really speechless. He was silent, not saying anything. In fact, he didn't want to talk. He tried to communicate with the system, but it didn't work, and Hatake Kusuo didn't know what to do. He was very troubled. After Hatake Kusuo failed to communicate with the system also remained silent and didn't say anything. For a while, it was very quiet here. Hatake Kusuo was silent for a long time before he asked, "System, can't you really make some concessions?" The system refused. "No." At this point, Hatake Kusuo fell into silence again, and he was very tormented now. Time just passed by minute. However, even if it passed, Hatake Kusuo felt that it was useless, because the passage of time did not help him much. Time passed, and he still didn't wait for any results. He didn't think of any solution. This is really a very distressing thing. Suddenly, Kusuo Hatake seemed to have thought of something. he said immediately with a move in his heart. I thought of it. However, this time, the system did not answer and remained silent. Kusuo Hitaki did not care whether the system could hear him or not, and he spoke to himself. I thought of a way. Kusuo Hitaki was not idle either. He used the impure world reincarnation to revive the Ginyu team, and he succeeded. Zero, please give flowers. Kusuo Hitaki was very happy after seeing the Ginyu team being resurrected. He breathed a sigh of relief and sighed. Finally, I succeeded in doing something. Although he did not find Frieza, he did not waste this time. At least he resurrected the Ginyu team. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time. It felt like a waste of time. Kusuo Hitaki saw that the system did not say anything about this matter, so he tried to communicate with the system. Zero. How is it? System, won't you praise me? After hearing this, the system replied. Nothing to praise, you are not bad, but you are wrong, your most important thing is to find Frieza, not to revive the Ginyu squad, you didn't figure out the order. Hearing this, Kusuo Hitaki was speechless. Indeed, although it was a great joy for him to revive the Ginyu squad, it seemed that he had made a mistake. If Frieza cannot be found, everything is useless. Kusuo Hitaki was a little depressed. No one reported anything to him. It seemed that he hadn't done it yet. Without finding Frieza, Kusuo Hitaki was desperate enough. At that moment, he really felt the time was so long. Work. Chapter 558. Now, the Ginyu squad has been resurrected. Kusuo Hitaki controlled several members of the Ginyu squad to go find Frieza. If they used their people, they couldn't find Frieza. If the Ginyu squad was used, then their people might be able to find Frieza. Increase the odds of winning. Watching the Ginyu squad go, Kusuo Hitaki was in a good mood. He watched this scene very calmly. Sun Wukong and the others saw this scene. 027. To be honest, Sun Wukong and the others were very surprised, because they didn't expect that Kusuo Hitaki had the ability to revive the dead. This was also the first time they saw it. Before, I really had never seen Kusuo Hitaki use this trick. At this time, Sun Wukong came over. He asked Kusuo Hitaki. Hitaki Kusuo, since you have the ability to bring people back to life directly, why do you need Piccolo and the others to find the Dragon Balls? Why use the Dragon Balls to revive Piccolo? Can't you just revive Krillin directly? Seeing this, Hitaki Kusuo shook his head. He looked at Sun Wukong and answered. No, you must use the Dragon Balls. I can't revive Krillin directly, otherwise, Krillin will be destroyed. Upon hearing this, Sun Wukong was stunned, obviously puzzled. Hitaki Kusuo also knew that he was puzzled, and explained. Immortality reincarnation is a forbidden technique. People resurrected by this forbidden technique are, in a certain sense, equivalent to puppets. They have no consciousness of their own and are controlled. If I revive Krillin, but he has no consciousness of his own, are you willing? Sun Wukong was stunned and surprised. Dragon Balls will do. Hitaki Kusuo nodded. Yes, the Dragon Balls can do it. Anyone who is resurrected by the Dragon Balls is truly alive, just like a normal person, and has his own independent consciousness. Therefore, we must wait for the Dragon Balls to revive Krillin. Seeing this, Sun Wukong understood. He didn't say anything, and remained silent. Now, we can only wait for the Dragon Balls, but it is not so easy to find all the Dragon Balls. It seems that everything is difficult. There is a way to revive directly, but it is not applicable to Krillin, and the way to revive Krillin needs to wait. It feels very contradictory. It's not right, this kind of dilemma makes people very upset. Hitaki Kusuo stood there silently. He looked at everyone, no one came back to report to him. It seems that Frieza has not been found yet, and time is running out. At that moment, Hitaki Kusuo was in a really bad mood. Zero. Is it really that there is no way out at the end? It's so difficult. Hitaki Kusuo didn't know what to do, and he would be stumped sometimes. At that moment, Kusuo Hitaki remembered many things in the past. It was really amazing. He had survived so many things in the past, why couldn't he survive now? He was stuck at this level. Looking back at the past from the perspective of the present. Kusuo Hitaki felt very subtle. He had an indescribable feeling, as if it was his own problem. I felt stronger in the past. I felt much more fragile now. Although my strength has become stronger, my heart is more fragile than before. Kusuo Hatake thought that it should be fine. I will definitely wait for a good result. I could wait in the past, and I can wait now, Kusuo Hatake said to himself firmly. He really felt that he had changed a lot. He lost his original intention. It would be good if he could still keep his original intention. Unfortunately, he gradually lost himself. Chapter 559. At this time, Kusuo Hatake said to Son Goku and Raditz. Raditz, Son Goku, you two merge the Rasengan together to create a large Rasengan. Its lethality will be dozens of times greater than that of the Rasengan. Hearing this, Son Goku and Raditz were stunned. Son Goku asked Hatake Kusuo. Can it be done this way? To this, Hatake Kusuo nodded and responded. Yes. After hearing this, Son Goku said nothing. He only looked at Raditz. Raditz also looked at him, but did not say anything. At this time, Son Goku 06 said to Raditz. Then let's try it. Hearing this, Raditz nodded. Yeah. Son Goku looked at Hatake Kusuo again and asked. Will it fail? Hatake Kusuo wanted to laugh when he heard this. He answered depressedly. Everything will definitely fail, and this is the same. Son Goku listened, he ignored it, he just asked again. What is the probability of failure? However, Kusuo Hatake shook his head and answered. I don't know. I have to try it before I know. Otherwise, how can I calculate it if I haven't even seen it? It seems that this is a new attempt. Even Kusuo Hatake doesn't know the consequences of the attempt. However, the more this happens, the more interested Sun Wukong is. He wants to challenge this unknown thing. Sun Wukong looked at Raditz and said. Let's try it. Hearing this, Raditz nodded. Okay. Kusuo Hatake was also watching from the side. He also wanted to know what the effect would be after the attempt. After all, he hadn't seen the effect afterwards. Sun Wukong tried it with Raditz. The two stood opposite each other, not too far from each other. Kusuo Hatake was on the other side, forming a triangle relationship with them. He watched the scene silently. Raditz and Son Goku also looked at each other. They looked silent, looking at each other without saying a word. For a moment, the scene was very quiet. In such silence, suddenly, Son Goku and Raditz started fighting, both of them used Rasengan. Kusuo Hatake watched this scene and his mood instantly became very nervous. He kept staring. At this time, the Rasengan of the two people collided with the Rasengan used by the other party when rushing towards each other, but the result did not produce the scene that Kusuo Hatake imagined. After the two Rasengan collided with each other, they broke apart. The forces were offset by each other, and finally, the two Rasengan fell down and rolled on the ground. Watching this scene, Kusuo Hatake was stunned. Son Goku and Raditz were also stunned. This result seemed a little different from what they imagined, so, does this mean failure? Sun Wukong and Raditz looked at Kusuo Hatake. They didn't ask, but they asked with their eyes. When Kusuo Hatake saw them looking at him, he also looked at the two of them. Kusuo Hatake was speechless. He sighed, a little depressed. Suo Hatake answered their eyes. You failed. The result of success would not be like this means failure. After hearing this, the two were a little depressed and in a low mood. They looked at each other without saying a word. Suo Hatake could see their disappointment. Although Kusuo Hatake himself was also very disappointed, he still couldn't help but encourage them. Come on, one failure doesn't mean anything. Nothing is easy to succeed in one go. Try a few more times, maybe you will succeed. Chapter 560. However, Kusuo Hatake underestimated one thing, that is, their constant attempts like this have a price. After many times, the meridians of both hands were damaged. Kusuo Hatake didn't expect this to be so difficult. He thought that if he didn't succeed at the beginning, he would succeed after trying a few more times. Unexpectedly, after so many attempts, he didn't succeed once. Kusuo Hatake was speechless. The most important thing is that their meridians were damaged. It's not that there is no cost at all, and it's not that you can try it unlimited times. Every time you try, you must cherish every opportunity. Kusuo Hitaki saw that the meridians in their hands were damaged. He quickly asked the two to stop and called Chi-Chi and Bulma to treat them. Help them quickly. When they practiced the new ninjutsu, they damaged their meridians. Hearing this, Chi-Chi and Bulma hurried over to check. When they checked and saw the damage, they were shocked. It's so serious. As they said, they each took charge of one and started to treat them. It was not light, but a little serious. I didn't expect that they would wait until it was so serious before they thought of starting to treat them. Kusuo Hitaki was also very nervous when he saw them say this, and asked, "Is it serious?" Chi-Chi answered, "Anyway, it's not a light case. If they delay it any longer and don't get treated, their hands will most likely be disabled." Seeing how serious it was, Kusuo Hitaki fell silent. He looked at their hands. Looking at the injured hands, Kusuo Hitaki felt a little guilty. If he hadn't been so strict with them, it would have been fine. However, they were also stupid. When they started to feel uncomfortable, they should have said it. If they didn't say it, their bodies were not Kusuo Hitaki's, and Kusuo Hitaki couldn't feel the pain on their bodies. So, how could he know? Kusuo Hitaki said to them, "Okay, you guys get treated first. As for this new ninjutsu, you guys should also stop for now to prevent the meridians from being damaged too seriously and eventually unable to be repaired." Hearing this, Sun Wukong and Raditz looked. When the two saw Kusuo Hitaki say this, they hesitated. They didn't want to hinder the progress, so when they found something wrong before, they kept it to themselves and didn't say anything. Now, things have turned out like this, and both of them feel guilty. They also want to continue. However, the meridians in their hands are really damaged too badly. If they insist on continuing, it is very likely that their hands will be crippled. This is too big a gamble, and they dare not gamble. Finally, the two could only look at Kusuo Hitaki and nodded. Yeah. Hitaki Kusuo looked at them like this. He didn't say anything. He didn't know what to say. His mood was quite complicated. There was an indescribable feeling. Now we can only wait for their hand injuries to heal first, and then we can talk about the rest. Hitaki Kusuo has been staying aside, quietly watching Chi-Chi and Lijiao Bulma's treatment. He looked reluctant, because he thought it was very serious and must be very painful. I really don't know what Son Goku and Raditz feel in their hearts. But they didn't show too much on their faces. If it weren't for seeing their hand injuries, no one would notice that they were injured and acted like nothing happened. Hitaki Kusuo thought about this and felt a little difficult. The chance of success is really too small. Chapter 561. The meridians of the hand injury were treated by Chi-Chi and Bulma. After the treatment, Sun Wukong and Raditz have recovered. Now, the two are resting. While resting, Sun Wukong analyzed the experience of previous failures and said, "Maybe, there is a point that is not right." Hitaki Kusuo has been listening to their analysis. He did not say anything. After listening, Raditz replied, "Well, there is indeed a point that is not right." Sun Wukong seemed happy. Or, let's try again. Raditz was a little surprised to see him say this, because the reason why Raditz hesitated was that the two had just healed the injury of the meridians. Just healed, do we have to do it again? If so, what if it is damaged again later? This is not a joke, it is too risky. Sun Wukong saw Raditz's obvious hesitation. He asked, "How about it? Raditz, try again." Seeing this, Raditz didn't say anything. He just looked at Kusuo Hitaki. When Kusuo Hitaki saw Raditz looking at him, he raised his eyebrows calmly and answered, "Don't look at me, I have allowed you to have the freedom to choose now. You can start whenever you want. There is no rush." Seeing Kusuo Hitaki said this, Raditz looked at Son Goku again. Son Goku also looked at him and persuaded, "Raditz, let's start again. This time, we analyze the experience of previous failures. This time, I have a hunch that we will succeed." Seeing Son Goku so confident, Raditz smiled reluctantly. Sun Wukong said this to convince himself to try, but Raditz couldn't refuse him. After all, it was hard to refuse such a kind offer. Raditz nodded. "Yeah. Then, the two started a new round of trials again. Kusuo Hitaki watched the battle again. From a distance, Son Goku and Raditz stood face to face, looking at each other, not too far away. Everything fell into silence again. In the stair, both of them found an opportunity. Suddenly, they used the Rasengan together, and Son Goku cooperated with Raditz a little more and accommodated Raditz a little more. Then, the Rasengan used by the two merged together. After merging together, they launched an attack, and the attack was launched, which made Hitaki Kusuo, Son Goku, and Raditz dumbfounded. Success. At that moment, Hitaki Kusuo even stayed there. He really didn't expect that it would succeed so easily. He had experienced it countless times before, but it didn't succeed. Now it succeeded in just one time. This is really rare. After Son Goku and Raditz reacted, they even cheered. Yeah, that's great. They rushed to each other and high-fived each other. Seeing their joy, Hitaki Kusuo was also very happy. Because of this attack, a big pit was destroyed on the ground. Judging from the depth and width of the pit, it is indeed stronger than the attack launched by a single Rasengan. The power is indeed increased by dozens of times. Hitaki Kusuo looked at this scene. He was very happy and relieved, finally succeeded. At this time, Sun Wukong and Raditz ran to him. Hitaki Kusuo. Looking at the two of them, Hitaki Kusuo also knew that they were asking for encouragement like a child, so Hitaki Kusuo cooperated with them. You did a good job. You succeeded. Great, very good. Hearing this, the two were very happy. They looked at each other and smiled. At that moment, Hitaki Kusuo also smiled. He was really relieved that these two people were very smart. Chapter 562. Sure enough, sending the Ginyu team to take action is a good idea. They can find Frieza faster than Hitaki Kusuo and his own people. Hitaki Kusuo has received the news that the Ginyu team has found Frieza. Seeing this, Kusuo Hitaki was very happy. He immediately organized his men and went to Frieza's temporary hiding place, ready to destroy Frieza in one fell swoop. This time, he couldn't let him escape again. When Kusuo Hitaki took action, Frieza saw the Ginyu Wars. He didn't know that the Ginyu Wars secretly sent a message to Kusuo Hitaki behind his back. He was very surprised to see the resurrection of the Ginyu Wars. But Frieza was also surprised by their resurrection. How did they resurrect? Could it be the effect of the Dragon Ball? Kusuo Hitaki used the Dragon Ball to resurrect the Ginyu Wars. Apart from this association, Frieza couldn't think of what else could have caused the Ginyu Wars to be resurrected. Because they couldn't be resurrected out of thin air. It must be the effect of the Dragon Ball. Anyway, Frieza was very happy that the Ginyu Wars could be resurrected, and he said to the Ginyu Wars, "You have been resurrected." However, the Ginyu team listened to Frieza's words, and they did not answer. They just stood there, looking normal, but a little strange. Frieza also felt strange. But he thought that after all, it was a product of resurrection, and it was still different from the original, so it was normal to have changed now, as long as they could survive. Frieza also gave up the strange feeling in his heart. He said to the Ginyu team happily, "Welcome back." However, the Ginyu team still did not say a word. From the time they found Frieza until now, they have not said a word. Frieza also felt something was wrong. But he couldn't tell what was wrong. No one answered him. He was very depressed and asked the Ginyu team, What happened to them? Don't you recognize me?" The Ginyu Sentai listened, but still kept silent. They didn't say anything. Frieza was really depressed to see them like this. What happened to the Ginyu Sentai? Frieza was a little unhappy, but after thinking about it, he didn't care about their silence. He just ordered the Ginyu Sentai. "You came back just in time. Go deal with Kusuo Hitaki and the others to buy time for me." Frieza was ready to escape from here. However, after hearing this, the Ginyu Sentai still stood there, silent and unmoved, like a piece of wood. Looking at their strange appearance, Frieza became more and more suspicious. He had guessed all the possibilities. For example, after the Ginyu Sentai was resurrected for the second time, did they become stupid? After all, it was a resurrected product, and it certainly couldn't be compared with the original one. 0. Frieza saw that they didn't take action, and he started to get angry. Okay. You guys, don't you even recognize me? I am your commander, Frieza, you dare to disobey my orders. Don't you want to live? Hearing this, the Ginyu squad remained indifferent. They were like puppets without souls, just standing there. If they were not sure that they were still alive, they might really think that it was just a corpse. Frieza was very angry when he saw the Ginyu squad like this. If you don't follow the order, I will kill you, and your resurrection will be in vain. He threatened. All of this was received by Kusuo Hatake, who came over, because the Ginyu force had been transmitting information to him. Work. Chapter 563. Seeing that Frieza had been asking the Ginyu force to do things for him, although Kusuo Hatake had not arrived yet, he decided to directly control the Ginyu force to attack Frieza. Prepare to launch a sneak attack on Frieza. Otherwise, after a long time, Frieza would definitely be suspicious, and if he launched another attack at that time, it might not succeed, because Frieza was already on guard. Frieza looked at the Ginyu force. He really felt that he was getting more and more something was wrong. At this moment, Frieza didn't expect that after receiving the order from Kusuo Hatake, the Ginyu Rangers would directly launch a sneak attack on Frieza. Frieza was shocked when he saw that the Ginyu Rangers actually attacked him. He had felt something was wrong before, but he didn't expect that it was really wrong. The Ginyu Rangers actually attacked him. This would never happen under normal circumstances. Although Frieza was shocked, he reacted quickly. Frieza fought back against the Ginyu Rangers, and he and the Ginyu Rangers fought, and the two sides had a big battle. Frieza was still very powerful. He easily defeated the Ginyu Rangers. After destroying them, however, Frieza did not feel very happy. On the contrary, he was a little sad. Unexpectedly, his own people would attack him, but Frieza also thought that this was not their intention. They were resurrected, but their consciousness must have been controlled. In other words, they are now like puppets and do not represent anything, so after Frieza figured it out, he did not feel sad. He was just a little angry. The other party actually used his people to resurrect and deal with him, which made Frieza feel a provocation, and he felt that this must be Hatake Kusuo did it. Although I don't know what method Kusuo Hatake used to revive the Ginyu squad. Could it be that Kusuo Hatake has already found all the Dragon Balls? He found all the Dragon Balls in such a short time. Frieza was a little surprised. If so, then this Frieza is too powerful. Frieza felt a little uneasy. This Kusuo Hatake is difficult to deal with. He is the most difficult one since Frieza came here. If there is no Kusuo Hatake, Frieza feels that he will easily occupy this place. Thinking of that damn Kusuo Hatake, Frieza really wants to kill him. But Frieza didn't have this ability. Now, he felt a little bit caught in a dilemma, neither left nor right, as if nothing could work. He really didn't know how to solve this problem. He was very annoyed, and he was extremely annoyed. Especially, when he was down, the Ginyu squad was used again, and he didn't have a single helping hand. The people who followed him before now became helpers of Kusuo Hatake and his team. This was really the most hateful thing. Frieza felt surrounded and helpless, and he really wanted to leave here quickly, but he was still injured. However, after resting and self-care, Frieza's injuries were almost healed. He wanted to leave a little, but he was unwilling to leave like this. Now, he was the only one left among the people he brought with him, and although Kusuo Hatake and his team were also damaged, they were not as serious as his side. Frieza really wanted to inflict some heavy damage on Kusuo Hatake before leaving. At least, we should make sure that their damage is equal to our own. Chapter 564. The Ginyu squad has been completely wiped out by Frieza, but Kusuo Hatake has also arrived with his men. Seeing Kusuo Hatake coming, Frieza looked over. Kusuo Hatake rushed over with his men. When he arrived in front of Frieza, Kusuo Hatake stopped not far away. He looked at Frieza and said nothing. Frieza also looking at him, he said nothing. The two looked at each other like this, and after a while, Frieza spoke calmly. Hatake Kusuo, you are here. To this, Hatake Kusuo nodded and said calmly. Oh 6, well, I'll take care of you. Frieza snorted disdainfully when he heard this, and Frieza said. Take care of me. Hitaki Kusuo, that depends on whether you have the means to take care of me. Hearing this, Hitaki Kusuo said nothing. Frieza glanced at the bodies of the Ginyu squadron, and then looked at Hitaki Kusuo and questioned. Hitaki Kusuo, did you revive these Ginyu squadrons? Hearing this, Hitaki Kusuo looked over. Looking at the bodies lying on the ground, they had been killed by Frieza again, and Hitaki Kusuo just felt it was a pity. After all, he had finally resurrected them. However, Hitaki Kusuo did not feel pain. After all, these are Frieza's men. They are killing each other, and it feels like they are bullying others. Hitaki Kusuo even feels happy. Hitaki Kusuo looked at Frieza and answered. Yes. Frieza saw that the Ginyu squad was really resurrected by Hitaki Kusuo, and he was very confused. What did you use to revive them? Dragon Balls. Did you collect all the Dragon Balls? Hitaki Kusuo raised his eyebrows after hearing this. He answered. Immortality. Frieza was stunned to see this. He thought it was Dragon Balls, but it seemed not. Frieza asked him. Is it because of the impure world reincarnation method, not Dragon Balls, that they are like this? Are they controlled by you? Hitaki Kusuo nodded. Yeah. After solving the doubts, Frieza didn't say anything else and remained silent. The two of them fell into this situation of staring at each other again, looking at each other without saying a word. In the stare, Frieza suddenly spoke. Okay, now you come, you also intend to destroy me, in this case, what are you waiting for? Hitaki Kusuo answered calmly. I don't plan to wait any longer. When Frieza heard it, he used the death beam net to launch a large-scale attack without saying a word. Hitaki Kusuo frowned when he saw it. He had experience a long time ago. When he saw Frieza using the death beam net again, Hitaki Kusuo immediately deployed Earth Escape to defend. In an instant, Frieza's death beam net could not attack them. All the people on Hitaki Kusuo's side were in the safe protection of Earth Escape. The two of them competed like this. Frieza frowned when he saw Hitaki Kusuo could withstand his death beam net. He always felt that Hitaki Kusuo was the most difficult one to deal with here. As long as Hitaki Kusuo was dealt with. Then, the others were small fish and shrimps and were easy to deal with. Hitaki Kusuo looked at Frieza. He couldn't just defend blindly, he had to take the initiative to attack, otherwise, this battle would be dragged on indefinitely. After thinking it through, Kusuo Hitaki used Earth Escape to defend while using Fire Escape to attack. Frieza was shocked when he saw the Fire Escape coming. Frieza dodged immediately, and he was lucky that he really dodged it. Chapter 565. Seeing Frieza luckily dodge his fire escape, Kusuo Hitaki frowned, and he quickly thought of something, and Kusuo Hitaki threw the sword in his hand. The sword rushed towards Frieza. Frieza had just dodged the attack of fire escape, and now he had no time to stabilize himself. As soon as the sword rushed over, Frieza saw it. However, he had no time to dodge. So this time, Frieza was attacked by the sword, and Kusuo Hitaki was very happy to see that the sword successfully attacked. But he was unhappy again. Because Frieza's armor was too hard, the sword's attack could not penetrate it at all, only hitting the surface. Frieza was not injured at all. No external injuries, at most a little pain. Hitaki Kusuo frowned as he watched this scene. He thought it would succeed, but unexpectedly, it didn't. Just now, Frieza was really anxious. He also thought he would be injured, but after seeing that he was not injured, Frieza was also very happy. He looked at Hitaki Kusuo. Frieza mocked him. Hitaki Kusuo, have you rested for a few days and your strength has weakened? Why is your attack power so weak? Hearing this, Kusuo Hitaki's heart moved. He looked at Frieza silently, without saying a word. Kusuo Hitaki didn't want to tell his true intention. Just then, Frieza seemed to feel something. He was startled and looked up. Looking up, Frieza was shocked. He realized what Kusuo Hitaki's sword was for. It turned out that it was to distract him. Now, Sun Wukong and Raditz were already very close to him in the sky. And his attention was all on the sword, so he ignored other dangers. Even though he noticed it now, it was hard for him to react in such a short time. Goku and Raditz have already completed their cooperation. They used the Rasengan to attack Frieza from above. Frieza looked at this scene, at everything in front of him, and his eyes widened in shock. Hitaki Kusuo looked at this scene with satisfaction. This was the effect he wanted. So, when Frieza mocked him just now, Hitaki Kusuo didn't care, because Frieza would soon learn a lesson. All this is a foregone conclusion. Frieza is not, maybe he could have dodged it again. Whether it was Sun Wukong, Raditz, or Hitaki Kusuo, they were all waiting for Frieza to be defeated. This was already an ironclad fact. I didn't expect that at such a critical moment, something could happen. In such a short time, something could happen. Everything made people unable to react. Frieza watched the big ball Rasengan rushing towards him. He knew that once he was hit by the big ball Rasengan, he would fall into the hands of Hitaki Kusuo and others today. Frieza knew the seriousness of the matter. He also thought about it in such a short few seconds, and soon, he thought of a solution. Frieza used high-speed movement. He moved away in an instant and dodged the attack. He dodged it, but the big ball Rasengan's attack continued, so, fortunately, he rushed straight down. Finally, the power of the big ball Rasengan all hit the ground. Caused very serious damage. The entire ground was smashed into a big hole, which was very wide and deep. Frieza, who successfully dodged it, was shocked when he saw the result. Fortunately, he dodged it. If he hadn't dodged it, if he was hit by this force, would he still be alive? I'm afraid he wouldn't be, so Frieza didn't dare to underestimate it anymore. Chapter 566. When Son Goku and Raditz saw that their attack was unsuccessful, they were very regretful. This Frieza was too cunning. Hitaki Kusuo looked at it and felt a little regretful. Because he thought that the two of them could attack successfully. The attack just now was very powerful. As long as it succeeded, they could directly take down Frieza. Unfortunately, they were smart enough, and Frieza was not stupid either. Of course, he would not stand there obediently and wait for others to attack him. He would definitely hide. After being shocked, Frieza looked at Son Goku and Raditz. These two people can't stay. After they cooperated, the attack power they created was too great, and it had already posed a threat to him. He had to find a way to get rid of both of them. One alone might not do anything to him. But when the two cooperated, they would become a threat to him. Frieza was ready to kill. When Hitaki Kusuo saw this, he was shocked and immediately looked at Son Goku and Raditz, shouting anxiously. Get out of the way. Hearing this, the two could not react, and they responded by looking at Hitaki Kusuo, who was shouting anxiously. Get out of the way. Looking at Hitaki Kusuo, Son Goku and Raditz reacted, and they looked at Frieza. However, it was too late. When they looked, Frieza had already used the Qigong wave, and it was coming straight at them. The Qigong wave rushed over. Looking at this scene, the two were stunned. Although their reaction was a little slow, it might have endangered their lives, so the two reacted faster. Sun Wukong immediately counterattacked with Kamehameha. Raditz also used Rasengan to block the attack. Both of them just blocked the attack in time, and Frieza failed to sneak attack. Seeing the failure, Frieza was angry and gritted his teeth unwillingly. Really, if they were a little faster, they would not be able to react. In this way, he could kill both of them. Why did they react? Hitaki Kusuo was relieved to see that the two were temporarily safe. Hitaki Kusuo could see that Frieza wanted to kill them. Maybe he had seen the power of the two after they cooperated, and felt that the big ball Rasengan would pose a threat to him, so he wanted to kill them. Not only Hitaki Kusuo realized this. Sun Wukong and Raditz also realized this. Seeing this, they stared at Frieza nervously, knowing that he wanted to kill them. And Frieza's desire to kill was different from his previous mentality. Previously, he only wanted to kill as an enemy. But now, he felt threatened and wanted to kill the two, and it was targeted. Hitaki Kusuo looked at the two people still standing there, and he shouted. Why don't you get out of the way? Hearing this, Sun Wukong and Raditz looked at Hitaki Kusuo, and seeing Hitaki Kusuo saying this, they nodded, and then got out of the way. The two withdrew from the battlefield, and for a moment, Frieza could only see Hitaki Kusuo in his eyes. Hitaki Kusuo looked at Frieza. He was calm, staring at Frieza without saying a word. Frieza also stared at him without saying a word. The two stared at each other, and Hatake Kusuo said while looking at each other. Finally, in the final battlefield, there are only two of us left, only you and me. It seems that sooner or later we will have a real fight. Hearing this, Frieza stared at Hatake Kusuo. He smiled disdainfully and answered. I've wanted to do this for a long time, Kusuo Hatake, let's have a good fight, and decide the winner in one battle. Looking at Frieza, Kusuo Hatake said nothing. Chapter 567. After a hard search, Piccolo and others finally succeeded in collecting all 7 Dragon Balls. From 3 to 7, it's not easy. Looking at the Dragon Balls in his hand, Piccolo was very happy. He looked up and saw that the dragon appeared because of the collection of Dragon Balls. The dragon hovered in the sky, and it looked at Piccolo and others and asked. The 7 Dragon Balls have been collected. Now, you can make a wish, and I will help you realize this wish. Hearing this, Piccolo and others were very happy. Piccolo said immediately. I hope you can help us defeat Frieza. The dragon after hearing this, the dragon thought about it, and then refused. I can't help you realize this wish, you can think of another wish. Hearing this, Piccolo was stunned. He seemed very puzzled, wondering why Shenlong refused. Why? Shenlong answered calmly. Because Frieza is very powerful, I can't defeat him. Anyway, you think of another wish, hurry up. Shenlong urged, as if he was very busy. After hearing this, Piccolo frowned. He thought about it. Piccolo had no other wishes, only the previous one, but he didn't say it at the first time, which proved that he didn't really want to make that wish. It's not that he doesn't want to save Krillin, but it's more important to defeat Frieza. If Frieza doesn't die, then in the future, it won't be just Krillin who will die, maybe there will be others, so it's more important to defeat Frieza. Piccolo sighed, he was a little depressed. Finally, he adjusted his mood, forced himself to cheer up, and said to Shenlong. Okay, then I will change my wish. I hope to revive Krillin. Shenlong agreed after hearing this. Okay, this wish is okay. I can help you revive Krillin. After saying this, Shenlong disappeared. As Shenlong disappeared, the Dragon Ball also disappeared. Piccolo watched as the Dragon Ball disappeared in his hand. He was startled. Piccolo looked up at the place where Shenlong had just hovered. Now, Shenlong disappeared. Piccolo didn't know what would happen next. At this moment, a sound of footsteps came. After hearing it, Piccolo looked over in a daze. Piccolo was shocked to see Krillin walking towards them. His eyes widened. Krillin. Krillin walked over quietly without saying anything. He looked at Piccolo and the others calmly. Piccolo reacted and immediately ran to Krillin. Zero, please give me flowers. The two of them came close to each other. Piccolo excitedly grabbed Krillin with both hands and asked excitedly. Krillin, are you okay? Have you been resurrected? Krillin smiled at Piccolo. He seemed calmer and nodded in response. Well, I'm fine now. Seeing this, Piccolo also laughed softly and said. Zero. Great, Krillin, you're finally resurrected. Krillin smiled and said nothing. At this time, he looked around and didn't see Kusuo Hatake and the others. Krillin looked at Piccolo in confusion and asked curiously. Where's Kusuo Hatake? Seeing Krillin asking this, Piccolo answered as if he had just reacted. Oh, them. They went to deal with Frieza, and we are responsible for resurrecting you. Krillin, you are also resurrected now, hurry up and follow us to help deal with Frieza. The more people there are, the greater the chance of winning. Seeing this, Krillin nodded immediately. Well, let's go. Krillin took the initiative to say. Seeing this, Piccolo also nodded. Well, let's go. Then, the two of them hurriedly led people to help Kusuo Hatake and his team. Work. Chapter 568. When Krillin and his team came with their people, Kusuo Hatake was still confronting Frieza. Looking at Frieza, Kusuo Hatake looked very calm. Frieza also looked at Kusuo Hatake. The two just stared at each other without saying a word. The entire battlefield seemed to be blocked by all the other people. There were only 2 people left. Kusuo Hatake said calmly. This time, I won't let you escape again, Frieza, you have done too many evil things, you must die here today. Hearing this, Frieza sneered. He answered Kusuo Hatake. It's not certain who will die here, Kusuo Hatake, you are so arrogant just because you have more people. If it's one-on-one, it's not certain who will die first. Kusuo Hatake knew that Frieza was provoking him. He was creating a battle situation that was favorable to him, but strangely, even though Hatake Kusuo knew it, he still fell into the trap. Hatake Kusuo said to Frieza. Okay, Frieza, if that's the case, you think the duel is unfair, then it's simple. In this battle, no one can take action, it's just you and me, let's have a real duel. Seeing Hatake Kusuo fall into the trap, Frieza didn't say anything. He didn't know what Hatake Kusuo was thinking, maybe it was really the anger in his bones that was provoked. Many people, even if they know that the other party is using the provocation method. However, they will still fall into the trap. Hatake Kusuo looked at Frieza calmly and said. Today, I'll let you see, Frieza, even if it's just a battle between you and me, but you still can't beat me. After hearing this, Frieza just twisted his mouth and smiled, without saying a word. He was not so worried when there was only Hatake Kusuo, because the target was only Hatake Kusuo. Frieza hates group attacks the most. Because it will be chaotic, there is no target, and he doesn't know who to attack. He doesn't like this way of fighting. The two of them just stared at each other. Frieza looked at Kusuo Hatake. He was thinking that it would be much easier if there was only Kusuo Hatake. He had to think of a way to defeat Kusuo Hatake. Kusuo Hatake also stared at Frieza. At that moment, a strong desire to defeat Frieza surged in Kusuo Hatake's heart. Since Frieza didn't obey him. Then, Kusuo Hatake Lethe really looked at it, he had the real ability to beat him, not relying on the so-called strength in numbers 0. Even without the help of Sun Wukong, Raditz and others, he could beat him. While staring at each other, suddenly, Kusuo Hatake used the clone technique. His figure was instantly split into several. Each figure used Kamehameha to attack Frieza from all directions, and it only took a few seconds from using the clone technique to completing the steps before the attack. Everything was too fast. Frieza watched this scene, and what he hated most was the appearance of a group attack, so when Frieza saw this clone technique, he was stunned. He had never thought that Kusuo Hatake could use the clone technique. This was the first time he saw Kusuo Hatake use the clone technique. Those clones used Kamehameha to attack, and Frieza didn't react at all. He didn't know how to react, so he was caught off guard. Frieza's arm was directly broken. Seeing the success of the attack, Kusuo Hatake was very happy. He finally won and regained his face. Frieza didn't accept him, but now he accepts him, right? He didn't have any help from outsiders, just fighting him by himself. Chapter 569. Frieza had broken one arm, and now he only had one hand. Frieza's reaction was also very fast. After one arm was broken, Frieza immediately fought back. He first moved at high speed to avoid those clones of Kusuo Hatake, and prevented them from attacking him again. Then, while moving at high speed, Frieza used finger beams to attack those clones. In fact, Frieza couldn't tell which one was the real one. Anyway, he saw that it was Kusuo Hatake's clone, so he attacked directly, and his attack was effective. As long as his finger beam hit the clone, then, that clone will disappear, because it is just a clone, and being hit will not affect the overall situation, so the real body of Kusuo Hatake is still controlling these clones. Only when Kusuo Hatake's real body is hit, all the clones will stop. In this way, the two continued to fight. Frieza was very unlucky. After he killed all the clones, there was only one left, and he knew that it was the real body, but it was useless, because all the clones were also killed. No wonder he felt that this clone was the most difficult to deal with just now. After hitting it several times, it barely escaped. It turned out that this was the real body. Now, only Kusuo Hatake and Frieza are left. Frieza looks at Kusuo Hatake. Although the battle has started, the two are now in a life and death situation. But Frieza is too curious. He can't help asking about this matter. Hatake Kusuo, how did you do it? How do you make your clone technique to split it? Seeing that he was curious about this, Hitaki Kusuo slightly curled his lips. He snorted disdainfully and answered. Want to know? Unfortunately, I will never tell you. Frieza got angry when he heard it, and was more angry because he thought this clone technique was very good and he wanted to learn it, but now he was rejected. Frieza said angrily. Tisk, isn't it just a clone technique? I tell you, even if you don't tell me, I can learn it by watching myself. Hitaki Kusuo raised his eyebrows and answered. Can you learn it? Hitaki Kusuo smiled at Frieza sarcastically and answered. Okay, then try to learn it and see if you can learn it. As he said that, Hitaki Kusuo performed the clone technique again, and in an instant, several clones appeared. This time, Frieza stared closely. From the moment Hitaki Kusuo performed, he had been staring at Hitaki Kusuo, not missing any small details. The first time, Frieza didn't watch it carefully. So, he definitely couldn't learn it, but this second time, Frieza watched it carefully and saw the rough process. When Hitaki Kusuo finished performing, he looked at so many clones. Frieza smiled and said disdainfully. Tisk, isn't that it? Who can't do it? I only need to watch it once and I will learn it. As he said, Frieza began to perform. Seeing this, Hitaki Kusuo didn't launch an attack, but watched silently. He was very curious, could Frieza really learn it after watching it once? If so, his learning ability was quite strong. Hitaki Kusuo waited to see if Frieza could really succeed. He himself had to study for a long time to succeed. Frieza couldn't have learned it after watching it once. Frieza performed it, but the final result was a failure. Kusuo Hitaki looked at the result of his failure and smiled. I knew it would fail. Chapter 570. After Frieza failed to learn the clone technique, he was very angry. Seeing Kusuo Hitaki still laughing, he became even angrier and asked. What are you laughing at? Hearing this, Kusuo Hitaki curled his lips, and his smile disappeared. He said nothing, did not answer, and directly controlled the clone of Da Liang to attack Frieza. Once the attack begins, all the clones are the same. The original body will soon merge into these clones, and Frieza will soon mess it up, even if he deliberately remembers the original one. He will be too busy with the counterattack and will not have time to pay attention. So, Frieza soon got confused. He didn't know where Kusuo Hitaki's original body was. After Frieza lost Kusuo Hitaki's original body, he was very annoyed, angry at Kusuo Hitaki, and also angry at myself, just feeling helpless. The clones kept attacking Frieza. Frieza's energy was all on this, he had no time to care about other things. The real Kusuo Hitaki now withdrew from the battle. He looked at Son Goku and Raditz who were watching the battle on the side, and ordered them in a deep voice. Hurry up, use your big ball Rasengan diaresis. Upon hearing this, Goku and Raditz, who were watching the battle, were startled. They looked at the clone. They thought it was just a clone of Kusuo Hitaki, but it turned out to be the real one. Even Goku and Raditz couldn't tell the real one from the clone. Not to mention Frieza. Seeing that Kusuo Hitaki asked them to use the Rasengan, they were startled at first, because they thought that Kusuo Hitaki's clone technique could trap Frieza. But the clones were constantly killed by Frieza. It seems that this clone technique can only temporarily trap one person, and cannot kill the other party. In the end, they still have to rely on their Rasengan. After Goku and Raditz reacted, they nodded immediately. Yeah. Then, they used the Rasengan. Frieza was still trapped by the clones. Although he kept killing the clones, it would take more than a short time to kill them all. At this moment, there were only a few clones left of Hitaki Kusuo. Seeing that there were only 2 or 3 left, they would be eliminated soon. Frieza was more confident, just like walking in a dark passage, knowing that the front was the end and he would see the sun soon. It was that kind of joy. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Son Goku and Raditz, their Rasengan it has been performed and rushed towards Frieza. Frieza, who was fighting, suddenly sensed something. After he killed the last clone with his last move, Frieza looked at it in shock, but he could not react. The Rasengan was approaching. Frieza's eyes widened. He knew what the consequences would be if he was hit by this attack. He had seen how powerful the Rasengan was before. Frieza wanted to dodge, but it was too late. He just watched. The Rasengan hit him directly, and then Frieza felt a pain in his body. He was blown away instantly. Frieza was seriously injured and fell to the ground, so seriously that he couldn't even get up. He vomited blood and looked like he was about to die. Hitaki Kusuo was very happy when he saw that he was hit, smiled slightly, and felt relieved. Sun Wukong and Raditz were also very happy when they saw that he was hit. They even cheered with joy, hit each other's palms, and jumped up, because they were really happy. Chapter 571. At this time, Krillin and his team finally arrived. Hitaki Kusuo heard something strange. He looked over, and then saw Piccolo coming with his men, and Krillin was beside him. Hitaki Kusuo was a little surprised to see Krillin. Krillin was resurrected. Seeing that Krillin had been resurrected, Hitaki Kusuo smiled slightly. Great. They also defeated Frieza, and Krillin was also resurrected. It seemed that everything was developing in a good way. After Piccolo and his team arrived, Piccolo took the initiative to greet Hitaki Kusuo. Hitaki Kusuo. Hearing this, Hitaki Kusuo nodded. He looked at the two of them and asked, "Have the Dragon Balls been collected?" Piccolo nodded. He seemed to be in a good mood. He smiled. "It's collected, and I also resurrected Krillin." Seeing this, Hitaki Kusuo also smiled. He looked at Krillin and smiled. "Krillin, welcome back." Hearing this, Krillin smiled slightly and nodded in response, feeling a little touched. "Yeah." Then, they looked at Frieza together. Frieza was seriously injured, but he couldn't get up at first. Now, after a while, his body seemed to have recovered and he could get up. After Frieza got up, he looked at this place silently. He vomited blood, and now there was blood all around his mouth. He covered his heart with his hand. It seemed that he was seriously injured. The big ball Rasengan hit him at least half of his life. Looking at Frieza, Hitaki Kusuo said in a good mood. "How is it? Frieza, the final outcome is that you die, and everyone is alive." Hearing this, Frieza looked at Krillin unwillingly. He knew he was doomed this time. But seeing that Kusuo Hitaki had no losses at all, even the dead were resurrected in the end, and overall, there was no loss, Frieza was very unwilling. He was very unwilling. However, in this situation now, Frieza was powerless to reverse anything, because it was impossible, unless he met a savior again. But who would come to save him at this time? It was impossible, the probability was too small. Kusuo Hitaki said with a smile. "Let's all give Frieza the final blow and completely end his life." After hearing this, Frieza remained silent, and looked at Kusuo Hitaki and the others stubbornly, facing everyone alone. At this time, all of them launched attacks together. Instantly, all the attacks came at Frieza, and he didn't even have time to resist. All the attacks fell on him. Frieza was knocked away by the force. He flew out, and this time, he couldn't get up, because his body had reached its limit, with only one breath left. Watching Frieza fall to the ground, Kusuo Hitaki walked over. Seeing this, Piccolo and the others followed. When he came close to Frieza again, Kusuo Hitaki stopped, standing condescendingly, looking at Frieza, whose face was covered in blood, all his own blood. He lay on the ground, too weak to get up. Although Frieza is still alive now, it is only a matter of time. After a long time, he will die directly from his injuries without anyone else doing anything. He can't be saved, because his injuries are too serious. Almost no organ in his body is good. Suo Hitaki looked at Frieza in such an embarrassed state. He smiled and said calmly. "Frieza, you lose." Hearing this, Frieza didn't say a word, because at this moment he couldn't even make a sound. He was too seriously injured to speak. Chapter 572. Hitaki Kusuo looked at him and said, "The battle between you and me started with you and me, and now it ends with you and me. It feels like karma and reincarnation." Frieza didn't say anything. And Hitaki Kusuo had already raised his hand. Looking at this scene, Frieza knew that Hitaki Kusuo was going to end his life. At that moment, Frieza recalled a lot. His life was about to end, and he couldn't help but recall a lot of things. There was a sense of sadness in his eyes. Hitaki Kusuo raised his hand. He looked at Frieza, and before he took action, he said to Frieza calmly. Frieza, see you next time. Frieza was startled when he heard it. He couldn't quite understand it, and he didn't react to what this sentence meant. Hitaki Kusuo had already raised his knife. Frieza ended his life. Kusuo Hitaki looked at his body in silence, without saying a word. It was hard to tell what he was thinking from his face. Piccolo and the others watched from behind. Seeing Kusuo Hitaki say such a thing before killing Frieza, Piccolo and the others were confused and didn't quite understand what Kusuo Hitaki meant by saying this. Piccolo looked at Kusuo Hitaki's back and asked puzzledly. Kusuo Hitaki, you said, see you next time, what do you mean by that? Isn't Frieza already dead? Where is the next time? Hearing this, Kusuo Hitaki turned around and looked at everyone. Seeing that everyone looked puzzled, Kusuo Hitaki smiled slightly and answered. Nothing, a secret. Seeing him like this, everyone looked at Kusuo Hitaki with suspicion, but his attitude was very clear and he didn't want to say more. It made everyone think that Frieza was not dead, but faked his death. They all looked at Frieza again. But Frieza was so seriously injured that he couldn't possibly survive. He was definitely dead. Everyone didn't understand what Hitaki Kusuo said for a while, but they could only treat it as an unsolvable problem, because Hitaki Kusuo refused to say it. No matter what Hitaki Kusuo meant by saying such a mysterious word. Anyway, Frieza died in his eyes. That's it. Once Frieza is sure to be dead, nothing else matters. At this time, Hitaki Kusuo ordered. Go and deal with Frieza's body. How do you want to deal with Frieza's body? To ensure Frieza's death, Piccolo said immediately. Zero, please give flowers. It's very simple. We will burn his body on the spot and put an end to it. Hearing this, Hitaki Kusuo didn't mean to object. He nodded. Okay, let's burn his body. Then, Piccolo ordered people to prepare firewood. With the strength of many people, a simple device for burning corpses was quickly built. 0. Frieza's body was lifted onto the firewood. Hitaki Kusuo stood beside him, watching quietly. He never said a word. Piccolo gave an order. Set fire. Then, the little minions holding torches walked over and lit the firewood. Frieza's body began to burn in the thick smoke. Looking at this scene, Hitaki Kusuo had a calm face. Frieza's body burned. Everyone watched. Frieza was dealt with in their eyes, so there was basically no possibility of survival. Even the body was burned. Thick smoke billowed at the scene. Everyone was watching this scene. Kusuo Hitaki has always had a calm face, and no one can tell what he is thinking from his face. Work. Chapter 573. After dealing with the Frieza incident, Kusuo Hitaki has new things to deal with. At this moment, Kusuo Hitaki is sitting at the table in the room. He rests his hands on the table, gently touching his lips. Kusuo Hitaki is thinking, and he looks very absorbed. Just then, Raditz comes in. Raditz comes to Kusuo Hitaki and says to him. Found it, this is the third Dragon Ball. Saying 037, Raditz reaches out his hand, and a Dragon Ball is in his hand. After hearing this, Kusuo Hitaki gently turns his head to look at the Dragon Ball. There is a hint of depth under Kusuo Hitaki's calm expression. He reaches out to take it, looks up at Raditz, and says. Very good, now we are still short of 4, keep going, I'll wait for your good news. Hearing this, Raditz smiled, full of confidence. Yeah. Then, Raditz went out. After he went out, Kusuo Hitaki retracted his gaze and looked at the Dragon Balls in his hand. Now, he has collected 3 Dragon Balls in his hand, and there are still 4 left, which need to be collected slowly. Last time, Piccolo used the Dragon Balls to make a wish and resurrected Krillin. The Dragon Balls disappeared automatically. But they are still here. If you want to make a wish again, you must collect them all again. This is a major project. Kusuo Hitaki has been busy with this in recent days. Collecting Dragon Balls is not an easy task. If you are lucky, you can collect them in a short time. If you are unlucky, you may have to wait for a long time and cannot collect them. Kusuo Hitaki looked at the Dragon Balls quietly, lost in thought. Then, he took the other 2 Dragon Balls, put the 3 Dragon Balls together in his hand, and Kusuo Hitaki looked at the Dragon Balls quietly in a trance. This Dragon Ball is really a magical thing. As long as you collect enough of them, you can make a wish, and that wish can be any wish, as long as it is something that Shenlong can do. Hitaki Kusuo thought, if he could subdue the Shenlong and let it do things for him, how great it would be. Unfortunately, this is impossible. Shenlong is so powerful that even if Piccolo and the others combined their strength, they could not subdue the Shenlong. If it were possible, Frieza would have subdued Shenlong before him. Obviously, this is impossible. That's why no one has this idea. People will not work hard for something that has no hope at all. 0. Next, Hitaki Kusuo waited for a few more days. The Dragon Balls were collected one by one. By this day, 7 Dragon Balls had been collected. Hitaki Kusuo looked at the 7 Dragon Balls in his hand and was very happy. Beside him, Piccolo stood there. He looked at this scene and was also very happy, and asked Hitaki Kusuo. Hitaki Kusuo, what do you want to do by collecting the Dragon Balls? Hitaki Kusuo looked up and answered while looking ahead. I want to make a wish, hoping that the Dragon God can help me restore Namek. It was destroyed by the battle and could no longer be restored by human power. After hearing this, Piccolo was stunned. He looked at Hitaki Kusuo and said nothing. He thought that Hitaki Kusuo was collecting the Dragon Balls for some reason. He had guessed other possibilities, but not this one. At this time, Hitaki Kusuo stood up and said to Piccolo. Let's go out, I want to make a wish now. Hitaki Kusuo couldn't wait for a moment to restore Namek, he was very anxious. After hearing this, Piccolo nodded. Yes. Then Piccolo followed Hitaki Kusuo out and the two came to the outside. Chapter 574. Hitaki Kusuo stood still. He looked at the Dragon Balls. Slowly, the Dragon Balls floated away from his hands. Floating in the air, Hitaki Kusuo looked at them, quietly. At this time, as the Dragon Balls floated, they glowed. The Dragon God also appeared. The Dragon God hovered in front of the Dragon Balls. It looked at Hitaki Kusuo and said, I am the owner of these Dragon Balls. Now, you have collected 7 Dragon Balls. You can make a wish and I will help you realize it. What kind of wish do you want to make? Hitaki Kusuo listened, very calmly. He answered. I hope that Namek can be restored to its original state. After hearing this, the Dragon God agreed. Okay, Namek will be restored to its original state soon. You can go and see it later. Then, the Dragon God disappeared, and the Dragon Balls disappeared with it. This time, the Dragon Balls scattered on the earth. Piccolo watched this scene in silence, and Kusuo Hitaki also stood there quietly. The dragon had disappeared, taking the Dragon Ball with it. Namek would soon return to its original state. Just then, Raditz hurried over. He ran over, saw the two, and asked, Have you made your wish? Hearing this, Kusuo Hitaki and Piccolo turned around and looked at him. Seeing that it was Raditz, the two watched in silence. After Raditz ran over, he stopped, a little tired and a little out of breath, and asked, Have you made your wish? Where is the Dragon Ball? Seeing him say this, Piccolo seemed very puzzled. Of course I have made my wish. Why are you asking this? Seeing that he had made his wish, Raditz looked very disappointed. Kusuo Hitaki also saw it. Seeing this, he asked Raditz in confusion. Raditz, what's wrong with you? Hearing this, Raditz seemed depressed and sighed. Nothing, since we've made a wish, forget it. Hitaki Kusuo could see that he seemed to have a wish to make, so he asked him. Raditz, do you have any wish to make? Seeing this, Raditz nodded and answered. I hope that I can restore my home planet, Planet Vegeta through the Dragon Balls. Seeing this, Hitaki Kusuo remained silent. After hearing this, Piccolo looked embarrassed. But, we have made a wish, and what Hitaki Kusuo made was not a small wish. He wished that planet Namek would be restored to its original state, which is about the same as what you made. Raditz listened and said nothing. Hitaki Kusuo could see that Raditz must be very disappointed, and he must want to restore planet Vegeta. But the Dragon Balls had been used by him, taking up Raditz's opportunity. Thinking of this, Hitaki Kusuo suddenly made a decision, and he said to Raditz. Let's put it this way. The Dragon Balls have been scattered all over the Earth. I will go to Earth, collect the Dragon Balls again, and then help you restore planet Vegeta, how about that? When he heard this, Raditz was stunned. He looked at Hitaki Kusuo in surprise and asked in surprise. Is this okay? Hitaki Kusuo smiled and nodded, looking very reasonable. Okay. After hearing this, Raditz smiled and said happily. That's great. Seeing Raditz so happy, Kusuo Hitaki smiled slightly. He was also very happy that he could help Raditz. After all, his wish had been fulfilled, and now he had to help Raditz realize his wish. Suo Hitaki thought that he could probably understand the happiness of a wish being fulfilled. Let Raditz be happy too. Anyway, Kusuo Hitaki has been happy, and helping others is also a good thing. Besides, Raditz is his good friend. Chapter 575. For Raditz's matter, everyone returned to Earth. After returning to Earth, they were in a good mood looking at the new status quo of the Earth, but Sun Wukong was still worried about one thing. He had been holding it in his heart and hadn't asked it out. At this moment, Sun Wukong couldn't hold it in anymore, and he couldn't help but take the opportunity to ask Kusuo Hitaki about it. Suo Hitaki, when you killed Frieza, the last sentence you said to him, "See you next time," what exactly did it mean? Sun Wukong was still very curious about this matter. After hearing this, Hitaki Kusuo looked over and saw that it was not only Sun Wukong who had this expression, but everyone had this expression. They looked at Hitaki Kusuo with great expectation. Seeing this, Hitaki Kusuo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Are these people really so curious about this matter? It has been a few days, and he thought that everyone should have forgotten about it. Unexpectedly, they kept it in mind. Hitaki Kusuo sighed helplessly and answered. I say this because Frieza will be resurrected soon and will attack the Earth. By then, he will become even more powerful diaresis. When they heard this, everyone was shocked. Sun Wukong couldn't believe it and was shocked. No way. Isn't Frieza already dead? How can he be resurrected? This is impossible. Hitaki Kusuo saw that he didn't believe it, and there was nothing he could do. It's up to you whether you believe it or not. Anyway, the final fact will definitely be like this, so you'd better believe it. Seeing this, Raditz was also puzzled. He asked. Hitaki Kusuo, how did you know? Are you a prophet? Hearing this, Hitaki Kusuo smiled. He answered indifferently. Anyway, things will definitely develop in this way. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Since I said that at the beginning, there must be a reason. Besides, you will meet Frieza soon. Looking at Kusuo Hitaki's confident look, no one said anything. Since they haven't seen Frieza yet, and they saw Frieza die with their own eyes, and even his body was dealt with in time. So, under such circumstances, Kusuo Hitaki said that they will see Frieza in the near future. This made them feel like it was a fairy tale. It's impossible, they don't believe it, but Kusuo Hitaki is so confident that they can't help but look forward to the days ahead. Whether you believe it or not, the days will pass anyway. Is it really possible for them to see Frieza one day in the future? It's been so long, and now, they have forgotten Frieza's face vaguely, and they can't remember what Frieza looks like. Kusuo Hitaki looked at them thinking like this. He smiled and said, You don't have to be too nervous. Even if Frieza is resurrected, we should continue to fight, because even without Frieza, we will face new enemies. As long as we live in this world, the enemies will never end. Good Jiao. After hearing what Hitaki Kusuo said, Sun Wukong and the others were speechless. Never-ending battle. If so, it would be really tiring. Is there no day for peaceful coexistence? As long as we are alive, we must fight endlessly. What is the meaning of life if we live like this? Sun Wukong and Raditz were very depressed. They thought it was the end, but Hitaki Kusuo told them that it was just the beginning.